It was a crisp spring morning in Washington, D.C., the kind of day that usually meant endless speeches, political posturing, and the humdrum of bureaucratic life. But on this particular day, the House chamber buzzed with an unusual electricity. Rumors were swirling that something big was about to go down, something that would shake the halls of Congress and echo across the nation. Jasmine Crockett, a rising Democratic star from Texas, was usually known for her calm demeanor, her articulate speeches, and her steady rise through the political ranks. But beneath her polished exterior, there were whispers of questionable dealings, backdoor deals, and improprieties that some were beginning to unearth. Most brushed them off as political mudslinging, but others sensed something darker. Across the aisle, Representative Marjorie Greene sat in her seat, a fiery conservative known for her no-holds-barred style and a fierce loyalty to President Donald Trump. Greene had built her reputation by exposing corruption and taking on the establishment, regardless of party lines. And today, she was on a mission. The setting was a live televised committee hearing on government accountability, a stage that Marjorie had requested specifically to address certain allegations she claimed were being swept under the rug. The cameras rolled, millions of Americans tuned in, and the nation waited with bated breath. Marjorie opened with her trademark fiery rhetoric, her voice sharp and uncompromising. Today, I'm here not just as a representative, but as a watchdog for the American people. We have uncovered serious evidence implicating Representative Jasmine Crockett in a web of criminal activities that threaten the very integrity of our government. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The room, usually filled with polite nods and restrained applause, now buzzed with shock. Crockett's face, previously composed, tightened as she realized the storm about to break. Marjorie proceeded to lay out her accusations piece by piece. Allegations of campaign finance fraud, insider trading on government contracts, and even bribery involving influential lobbyists. Documents, emails, and recordings were presented live on air. The proof seemed damning, with the conservative congresswoman meticulously walking the audience through each link in the chain. Jasmine Crockett tried to maintain her composure, but the cracks were beginning to show. Whispers started to ripple through the Democratic ranks, while Republican faces hardened with grim satisfaction. Marjorie's words were like a hammer striking a chisel, breaking the facade of Crockett's carefully crafted public image. As the live broadcast continued, it became clear this was no ordinary political spat. The stakes were high. President Donald Trump, watching from the White House, reportedly smiled at the unfolding drama, his critics seizing on the chaos as yet another example of the divided and dysfunctional political landscape his administration claimed to be battling. Behind the scenes, Crockett's aides scrambled, trying to gather damage control strategies, while social media exploded with hashtags like #CrockettExposed and #AccountabilityNow trending nationwide. The story was no longer just a political controversy. It had become a full-blown scandal threatening to consume the careers of everyone involved. Amidst the turmoil, Marjorie Greene continued to push, insisting that the investigation must go further, calling for an immediate ethics committee review and possible criminal inquiry. Her voice grew louder, fueled by the energy of the moment and the support of a base hungry for justice and transparency. Crockett finally spoke up, her voice shaky but defiant. These accusations are baseless, politically motivated, and an attempt to derail the progress I fought for. I will cooperate fully with any investigation, but I stand by my record and my commitment to the American people. The chamber erupted into chaos. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and the line between decorum and chaos blurred. The narrative was set. A high-profile politician on the defensive, a conservative firebrand playing the role of the avenger, and the entire nation caught in the crossfire. Would Jasmine Crockett's career survive the onslaught? Or would Marjorie Greene's exposure mark the beginning of a new chapter of reckoning in Washington politics? For now, the story was just beginning. The fallout from Marjorie Greene's explosive live broadcast hit like a political bombshell. News outlets across the country scrambled to cover the scandal. Social media platforms were ablaze, with commentators, pundits, and everyday citizens debating furiously about Jasmine Crockett's alleged crimes. Was this the long-awaited unmasking of corruption, or a politically motivated hit job designed to weaken the Democrats? Jasmine Crockett's world was unraveling rapidly. Within hours, her office received an avalanche of phone calls. Some sympathetic, many hostile. The calls from donors slowed to a trickle. Staffers began to question their own futures, and political allies kept their distance. The Texas congresswoman was suddenly isolated, forced to confront the possibility that Marjorie's accusations were more than just political theater. Inside her office, Crockett sat behind her desk, staring blankly at the screen replaying Marjorie's unrelenting barrage. Her trusted chief of staff, Lisa, paced anxiously. "We need a solid plan, Jasmine," Lisa urged. "This isn't just a scandal anymore. It's an avalanche. The ethics committee's already sniffing around, and I heard the FBI might be taking an interest." Jasmine clenched her fists. "I've done nothing wrong, Lisa. They're trying to take me down because I'm effective, because I challenge the status quo." But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her resolve. The evidence Marjorie had shown was detailed and appeared authentic. Could it really be fabricated? Or was there a deeper conspiracy at play? Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene was riding the wave of public support. She appeared on several primetime shows, doubling down on her accusations, demanding transparency and justice. "If you're innocent, Jasmine Crockett, then you have nothing to fear," Marjorie declared on one interview. "But the American people deserve the truth, no matter who it hurts." President Donald Trump weighed in from the White House, using his platform to stoke the fire. "The swamp is deep, folks. When people like Marjorie expose crooked politicians like Crockett, it's a win for America. We need to drain this swamp completely." His supporters cheered, while his detractors warned of political weaponization. Back in Washington, the Democratic leadership convened emergency meetings. Speaker Nancy Pelosi expressed concern over the damage to the party's image, especially with midterm elections looming. There were calls to suspend Crockett temporarily while investigations proceeded, but also fierce defenses from some quarters claiming a political witch hunt. Public opinion was sharply divided. Polls showed a stark split along party lines, Republicans overwhelmingly backing Marjorie's crusade, Democrats rallying to defend Crockett as a victim of partisan attacks. Independent voters were less sure, many disturbed by the allegations but wary of political infighting. In the midst of the chaos, a new revelation emerged. A whistleblower within Crockett's own team contacted a major investigative reporter, offering to reveal internal documents that could prove either guilt or innocence. The story took another twist, as reporters scrambled to verify the source and the credibility of the leaks. Jasmine's legal team began preparations, anticipating possible criminal charges. They insisted that any irregularities found were minor or administrative errors blown out of proportion. "We're ready to fight this in court," said Crockett's lead attorney, Mark Reynolds. "This is about preserving the truth, not a political casualty." The tension in Congress reached fever pitch. Committees called for public hearings, with both Marjorie and Jasmine scheduled to testify. Security was tightened, and the media presence grew intense. The hearings promised to be the political spectacle of the year. Through it all, Marjorie maintained her unyielding posture. "This isn't personal," she insisted, though her eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "This is about accountability. If we don't hold our elected officials to the highest standard, who will?" Jasmine Crockett, meanwhile, began a personal campaign to salvage her reputation. She held rallies in her home district, trying to connect with voters and remind them of her accomplishments. But the shadow of the scandal loomed large, and questions about her integrity persisted as Washington braced for the upcoming hearings. One thing was clear: the political landscape was shifting. Allies were realigning, enemies were sharpening their knives, and the battle for truth and survival had only just begun. The day of the congressional hearings dawned with a storm of anticipation. The packed hearing room was brimming with reporters, political aides, and curious staffers. Cameras were set up to capture every tense moment for the nation watching live. The stakes had never been higher. The eyes of America were fixed on Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene, two figures now locked in a fierce battle that transcended party lines and personal ambition. Jasmine arrived first, looking composed but visibly tense. Her usual confident smile was replaced by a determined set of her jaw. Flanked by her legal team and a few trusted aides, she entered the chamber with a nod to the speaker and a steely glance at Marjorie, who sat across the aisle, already perched with her characteristic intensity, eager to strike. The hearing was chaired by a bipartisan committee tasked with investigating allegations of corruption and ethical misconduct. The chairman, a seasoned congressman known for his fair but firm style, called the session to order. Marjorie went first, her testimony rehearsed and piercing. She recounted in vivid detail the evidence she had revealed weeks earlier, documents, emails, financial records that allegedly tied Jasmine Crockett to illegal campaign contributions and kickbacks from lobbyists in the energy sector. She leaned forward, her voice steady but fierce, driving home her demand for accountability. "This is not about politics. It's about the integrity of this institution," Marjorie said. "The American people deserve to know if one of their representatives is compromised." When Jasmine's turn came, she rose and delivered a passionate defense. "I stand before you today to say clearly and unequivocally that these accusations are false. They are politically motivated attacks designed to distract from the real work we are doing on behalf of our constituents. I have never accepted illegal contributions nor engaged in any unethical behavior." Her testimony was strong and emotional, and she referenced her legislative achievements and community work to remind the committee and the public why she had been elected. "I ask for a fair investigation, but I also ask that the truth be respected and that my name not be dragged through the mud by baseless claims." But as the hearing unfolded, a startling twist erupted. A previously undisclosed piece of evidence was introduced by the committee's independent investigator, a financial transaction that appeared to directly link Crockett's campaign funds to a controversial energy company with ties to foreign investors. The room went silent. Jasmine's expression faltered for the first time. Marjorie seized the moment. "This is the smoking gun," she declared. "It proves what I have been saying all along." The Democrats in the room scrambled to contain the damage, claiming the transaction was an accounting error or misinterpretation. Crockett's legal team quickly promised to investigate and provide clarifications. The hearing descended into heated exchanges, with partisan lines drawn sharply. Marjorie Taylor Greene pressed relentlessly, demanding immediate consequences. Jasmine Crockett, despite the pressure, maintained her innocence but was visibly shaken. Outside the hearing room, protesters from both sides gathered. Supporters of Crockett waved signs proclaiming "innocent until proven guilty," while Marjorie's backers chanted "drain the swamp." The political atmosphere was electric, charged with anger, hope, and deep division. President Donald Trump watched the hearings from the White House, issuing a series of tweets applauding Marjorie's brave fight against corruption and calling for full transparency and justice. His comments added fuel to the fire, further polarizing public opinion as the hearing concluded. The committee announced it would continue investigations and possibly recommend formal charges. Jasmine Crockett's political future hung in the balance and the days that followed. Both camps prepared for what would become a prolonged battle, legal, political, and personal. The question remained, would justice prevail, or would the nation witness another case of political destruction by partisan warfare? The drama had only just begun, and the eyes of America remained glued to every development. The dust from the congressional hearings hadn't even settled before the fallout began to consume every corner of the American political landscape. Jasmine Crockett, once considered a rising star, now found herself at the epicenter of a scandal that had fractured the nation's already fragile political unity. In the days following the hearing, the media circus intensified. Cable news networks ran non-stop coverage, dissecting every detail of the testimonies and leaked documents. Talk radio hosts on both sides of the aisle fanned the flames of outrage or sympathy, depending on their political leanings. Social media platforms became battlegrounds where supporters and critics clashed with unrelenting fury. Jasmine's home district in Texas was a microcosm of the national turmoil. Community leaders who had once praised her work now questioned her judgment. Local newspapers ran editorials demanding transparency and accountability. Town halls turned into contentious arenas where constituents demanded answers. Crockett's carefully cultivated image as a fighter for justice was being chipped away piece by piece. Inside her office, Jasmine Crockett was fighting a battle on multiple fronts. Her legal team worked tirelessly to refute the allegations, poring over financial records and scrutinizing every document presented by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Meanwhile, her communications staff crafted messages designed to shore up her reputation and rally her base. Yet, the pressure was relentless. Fundraising dropped sharply as donors hesitated to associate with a politician under investigation. Several prominent Democratic lawmakers publicly distanced themselves, wary of being tainted by association. The Speaker of the House issued a statement emphasizing the importance of due process but underscored that no one was above scrutiny. On the opposite side, Marjorie Taylor Greene's supporters celebrated what they called a major victory for truth and justice. Greene herself appeared emboldened, holding rallies and media appearances where she portrayed herself as the fearless crusader exposing corruption in the heart of Washington. "People are tired of the lies and cover-ups," Marjorie declared at one rally. "We're not going to stop until every crooked politician is held accountable." Jasmine Crockett is just the beginning. Her fiery rhetoric found a receptive audience among President Donald Trump's base, and the former president publicly praised Marjorie's courage in interviews and social media posts. Trump's endorsement amplified the story's impact, turning it into a defining issue of the ongoing political struggle. Amidst the public uproar, new details surfaced that complicated the narrative further. An investigative journalist revealed that the energy company at the center of the financial allegations had made significant contributions to both Republican and Democratic campaigns, suggesting a broader culture of corporate influence in politics rather than isolated wrongdoing. This revelation blurred the lines of the scandal, fueling debates about systemic corruption and the influence of money in Washington. Some commentators argued that Crockett was being unfairly singled out as a political pawn, while others saw it as evidence that the entire system was compromised. Jasmine Crockett responded by announcing a series of town hall meetings across her district, aiming to reconnect with voters and rebuild trust. She emphasized her commitment to transparency, promising to cooperate fully with ongoing investigations and to clear her name. The hearings and investigations continued in the background, with the Ethics Committee and federal agencies scrutinizing every angle. The stakes grew higher with each new revelation, threatening not only Crockett's political career but also shaking the confidence of voters in the institutions meant to serve them. The nation watched, divided and uncertain, as two powerful women clashed in a drama that seemed to reflect the larger battles tearing at the fabric of American democracy. At the heart of it all was a question that transcended party lines. Can justice be served in a climate so deeply polarized, or would politics ultimately override truth? As the fight for public opinion raged, the stage was set for a final showdown, one that would test the resilience of both Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and potentially reshape the future of American politics. As weeks turned into months, the saga between Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene escalated into the defining political drama of the year. The nation's eyes remained riveted on the unfolding battle, a clash of ideologies, personalities, and power that tested the very core of American democracy. The Ethics Committee's investigation advanced with unprecedented scrutiny. Subpoenas were issued, bank records examined, and witnesses interviewed behind closed doors. Each new detail seemed to tilt the scales, but definitive proof of wrongdoing remained elusive. The question hanging over Washington was no longer just about Crockett's innocence or guilt. It was about accountability, trust, and the integrity of elected officials. In the Capitol, tensions ran high. The partisan divide deepened, with Republicans rallying behind Marjorie Taylor Greene's crusade and Democrats fiercely defending Crockett. Press conferences became battlegrounds where accusations flew and defenses hardened. Every move was calculated for political advantage, but the human cost was real. Jasmine Crockett, despite the relentless pressure, refused to back down. She traveled across Texas, meeting voters, listening to their concerns, and reaffirming her commitment to serving their interests. Her speeches grew more impassioned, framing the fight as one not just for herself but for the ideals of justice and fair governance. "It's easy to attack when you hold the microphone," Crockett said during one rally. "But I stand here today, not just for me, but for every American who believes in truth and accountability." Marjorie Taylor Greene continued her relentless campaign, using every platform to keep the pressure on. Her supporters amplified her message, organizing rallies and petitions demanding Crockett's resignation. "We're not letting this go," Marjorie proclaimed. The swamp runs deep, but we're draining it one politician at a time. Then came a pivotal moment. The release of a leaked internal report from the Ethics Committee. The document, obtained by several news outlets, painted a complex picture. While it confirmed several irregularities in Crockett's campaign finances, it also highlighted systemic issues within the political fundraising system, problems that transcended party lines. The report recommended sanctions but stopped short of criminal charges. It called for reforms to prevent future abuses, urging Congress to tighten regulations on campaign contributions and lobbying. For Jasmine Crockett, the mixed findings were bittersweet. Though she avoided legal jeopardy, the stain on her reputation lingered. She publicly accepted the committee's recommendations and pledged to work toward reform. "This is a wake-up call for all of us," she said. "We must do better, and I am committed to leading that change." Marjorie Taylor Greene declared the findings a victory, insisting the investigation proved the necessity of vigilance and transparency. President Donald Trump praised the outcome as another win against corruption, continuing to use the episode as a rallying point for his political agenda. The story didn't end there. The scandal ignited a nationwide conversation about political accountability, ethics, and the power of the people to demand better from their representatives. New legislation was introduced, bipartisan efforts emerged, and voters became more engaged than ever. For Jasmine Crockett, the journey was one of trial and resilience. Though bruised politically, she emerged determined to rebuild trust and fight for her constituents. For Marjorie Taylor Greene, the episode solidified her role as a fiery watchdog and political provocateur. In the end, the drama between these two formidable women revealed a larger truth. In the turbulent arena of American politics, power and principle often collide, and the battle for justice is never truly over.